Hey everyone, this is Hydra Hut, and so this is Factory number 2 by Elgo. I talked about number 1. It was good. I enjoyed it. This came out not even last Wednesday, like 2 Wednesdays ago. Yeah, the Wednesday before last. I didn't get to finish reading it. I got a couple pages in, got sidetracked, forgot about it, got buried in some stuff. Anyway, I was going through catching up on some of the stuff that I hadn't had a chance to read, and realized I had forgotten all about this. So started it back over. Not issue 1, just restarted reading this, and man, it is so good. I'm so excited for number 3, and however many it's gonna be. Just wow. Like, the first one was good, solid post-apocalyptic sci-fi. I mean, granted, it was written in originally written in 2008. 2008 was when it was originally done. So there was still a lot of good comics coming out back then, and it was done in French for a French company. I believe Titan either bought out that company or they just bought a bunch of their intellectual property, because Factory and a couple others are from that company and are being reproduced now, but in English. And I am so happy Factory is getting done. Because right now, there is a lot of politics being put into fantasy, science fiction, especially science fiction. It's really depressing how one of the genres that really kind of originated around waking people up to government control and what the future holds for us in a negative sense is now being controlled by those people, and basically being used as a propaganda arm. It's despicable. Even 1984 has been edited and censored to essentially change the meaning of what it's trying to do. If you have an old copy of 1984 and a new copy of 1984, they're not the exact same book anymore. Anyway, let's talk about Factory. So, just real quick, if you haven't watched the first video, check it out. If you're not going to, I'll just real quickly explain what's going on. We're in the future. All the mammals are dead except for humans. It is very, very much a class society. You have the few rich elite, and everybody else is massively impoverished, living in citizen camps, basically, where they're fed this just foul refuse of food. The main bad guy that we've been dealing with is Lord Guko. And when in the last book we see a scene where he is eating a lot of meat, and by then we've found out that meat is illegal because mammals are all dead. So, and this is called Factory. So there's a lot of foreshadowing as to what we're actually learning about. And what Lord Guko is doing is he found out that there's a man with a pig's head who's going to be bringing chaos to their thing, because they use these precogs, basically this disgusting warped little baby thing that tells the future. Their precog died. His last prophecy was that a man with a pig's head was going to basically destroy them. So they're freaking out. They think because it was a dying prophecy that maybe something got messed up. Maybe it wasn't 100% accurate because there are no pigs. How could there be a man with a pig's head? But they're still extremely worried. So Guko sends all of his guards out, and his guards are these like head spider robot things. Sends all of his guards out to hunt down this pig head thing creature, and they're just going through the camps, basically. Meanwhile, we get introduced to somebody who looks like a dude with a pig's head, who's traveling with a monk, and some mentally drained people. The monk is trying to find a Chief Zaito, who's like a wizard or some nonsense, to try and help figure something out. And the pig also wants to see him to see if he can get his changed back into a human, because he thinks he's a human. There's so much to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to skip the part where they foreshadow, like, really heavily about the pig's past, but you don't realize it. You just think the guy's being like a mean. No, no, no. I want to. Yeah, yeah. I'll skip past that. Again, highest recommendations for these books. Number one was just good. Number two, it's like, oh, it all means stuff. It ties together. It's amazing. Where was I at? I done lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So the pig-headed gentleman that we met and his monk friend are traveling through these woods that turn out to be cannibalistic. They eat their two little retarded buddies. They run into this monkey. The monkey's like, hey, I can feed you guys. So they eat this disgusting looking thing that falls out of a tree. And lo and behold, it's poison. And the monkey is just holding it over their head. And then he offers them up the cure for it. They follow him. And then that's basically where this book starts off. Let's get into it. So we start off with this little scene of these dudes hunting these like bat creatures. They're clearly some sort of mutant, and I think maybe they're used to create these guards that we see. I don't know, you'll see later on. But anyway, these are peasants. They're hunting these bat creatures. They kill them, take them in for harvesting, and end up getting shot down by this crazy anti-personnel robot that's protecting this forbidden zone. It's really just kind of establishing more of the world and setting things up like that. We then move back to some of our guards, who previously in the last book were trying to capture this guy here. And I was thinking he was going to be the inspector for the factory, who was supposed to, the inspector's coming to check out Lord Guko's factory. And I thought that's who this was going to be. But it's not. We actually see the factory, or the inspector, show up in the next page. Anyway, these guards were trying to stop him. He basically disabled their radios, destroyed them, killed them, and then headed back into the forbidden zone that he was wandering through. That's when we see the actual factory inspector, this Weasley little dude. Guko's men are all trying to come up with some way to distract this guy from all the things wrong with their factory, but he's extremely by the book. Before they used to just be able to bribe the guys, but this guy's too on the level, which is ironic considering what this world is. And this is also what I mean about so many. Actually, I guess I didn't say anything, but this story has multiple levels of stuff going on. It's not just like, we got to do this, and I got to do this, and you got to go there. Every side has a lot of stuff they're trying to deal with all at once, and he manages to fit it all in without giving you huge walls of text. Also, I just wanted to point this out. Pretty sure Mr. Fusion is a reference to Spaceballs, because they had a Mr. Fusion and a Mr. Radar. But it could just be the fact that he had a Mr. Coffee and he thought it would be funny too. I'm pretty sure it was a shout out to Spaceballs though. Regardless, we jump back to the villages where we see the men are, instead of the first time we saw the peasant village, they were basically throwing them rotten food. This time they're just collecting people to work in the factory. And the peasants are actually pretty excited for it, for the most part. But there's a lot of depression going on. The guards, the way they're talking, they're making it seem very, very dire that they're gathering these people up. We then jump back to our pig-headed friend and his monk. They're currently still hallucinating from the drugs that the monkey gave them. The monkey tells them that they've got to follow him so that he can cure them. And then as the monkey is lecturing them, he gets shot in the throat with an arrow and dies. So they're freaking out because they're going to die now, because their only savior just got killed. And that's when these two other dudes show up that look like pigs. And up until now, this is the only guy we've seen who's looked like a pig. And he told this guy that he was changed that way by a wizard. The two pig dudes start talking like they're old friends and that they've been looking for him for a long time. Scene change. Now we're back with this guy here. We still don't know what he is or what he's doing, but he's in a forbidden zone. A red robot pops out, halts him. Turns out they're friendly with each other. They talk. He's got something inside of him that this guy is really happy to see, but we don't know anything about it yet. This story is still evolving for us. We jump back to the precog the precog section of the factory where they're trying to create a new precog for their for Lord Guko, and you can see that they're not having much luck. Very, very descriptive, well done sci-fi style explanations on what they're doing with their precognitive cells and all that kind of stuff. Not being a doctor and having any medical experience, I'm sure all this is just blather blather, but it at least sounds good to your average Joe. Jumping back to the factory, this is where shit gets real, guys. So, alright. I would say I probably spoiled this quite a bit, but this is where the serious spoilers are going to start happening. So, if I've already ruined too much of it for you, dip out now, because this is basically going to tell you everything from this book. Alright. So, we jump back to the factory, and we have our factory workers basically discussing how bad it is that they're getting inspected. And then we see what they're raising. And what they're raising are human cattle. And they're loading them up with steroids and fats to make them bigger and better for eating. But it's causing their livers to break down. So they can't, and it's also putting too much weight on their lungs. So they're having issues breathing. They're having issues living. And they're just like, This guy here is just like, so what? If they die, that just means we don't have to slaughter them. We've got good preservation systems, so no loss. But they're still trying to mass farm the peasants because they're having too many losses in the factory from the way they're handling the feeding and everything. We then move on back to one of the freaking peasant villages where these guards are harassing some dude who just happens to have a piggish face. I don't know. It's really brutal, but it just made me laugh because it's typical. In that same village, we then meet a mysterious stranger. And this is where we find out who the pig-headed man really is, or the man with the pig's head. He comes into this this freaking village, and this guy starts harassing him, wanting what's in his sack. He's telling the guy he's just got to go away. He's not going to give him anything in his sack. Kind of argue back and forth, and then the other villagers just kind of shut the dude up. Very, I really like the way he did this dialogue portion right here. Really, really like it. We then jump back to our original pig-headed guy, the monk, and now these two new pigs. And we find out that there is, in fact, a whole village of pigmen that have been living for quite some time. And anytime an outsider comes in, they lobotomize them so that they don't remember him. But they made a mistake of helping a hurt man who then got better, realized that these were all pigs, and kidnapped their chief. And we don't know if he slaughtered him or what yet. And they're telling our main pig friend, that he's part of the village. He just went crazy and had wandered off after their chieftain Zaito left. So then we jump back to some introduction of our peasants we previously saw. They're just about to get loaded into the factory, being told they're going to get good eating and that their lives are pretty much going to be great from here on out. Then we move back to the fucking slums where some brutality is happening. So this lady right here, she's getting harassed. This villager wants to eat her baby because he's so fat. They're calling her a whore, saying that she's fucked everybody in the slums. She's got 100 kids. Nobody knows who the daddy of this one is. It's probably one of theirs, so they have every right to do it. And they're like, you know what? Fuck it. We're just gonna eat them both. And no mercy for the skank. And it's just fucking brutal. And then our mysterious stranger is like, prostitution, famine, disease, cannibalism, degenerates. There's nothing you not stoop to. I got here just in time. And the peasants are all pissy, like, "Yeah, what are you talking about?" And he fucking throws out this pig head, so we're pretty sure is freaking Chief Zaito from the pig village. And it's just like, look what I got. And there's plenty more of this, and alive. So he doesn't actually like do anything for the woman and her kid. He's just like, hey, I know where to get meat. And then that's the end of it. So I'm freaking stoked to find out what's going to keep happening in this. And I have to wait until next month, and then probably even longer. But anyway, really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend it. Hail Hydra, baby.